Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Tallywhacker.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It's Friday. You've all been waiting for this. Welcome, welcome. And of course, I want to welcome my guest, Mike Figueredo, Humanist Report. Welcome to the show.
Hey,
first time. Your first time
I can't
here?
believe that this is the first time. We've talked
I know, right?
a ton of times, but this is the first official time. It feels so good.
I know, right?
Yes.
We're united, and it feels so good.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, you've
team,
invited me.
folks.
You have invited me on your show like a couple of times. Dystopian Times, I think I've done twice. On your Twitch stream before. So, you know,
Oh, right.
I definitely owed you.
I can't believe it's taken this long, Jeff. I can't believe it.
That's my fault.
Terrible.
I'm kind of a
You did it
dick.
so unfairly.
I am. I'm a terrible person. What it is. It's true. It's true. But hey, thank you for joining me, by the way. This is going to be a fun show.
I'm so excited. I did not get to read the articles that we're talking about, by the way. So this is all off the top of my dome. So if I say something that's completely wrong, feel free to fact check me.
Of course. Oh, I will. Look, I've already given away the first segment here with my lower third. We are going to be talking about Elongate. Ooh. Oh,
that's just.
Oh,
you know, I'm sad that Elon came up with it, folks. I was telling Jeff before the stream, I'm like, okay, that's an A+ pun right there. But then Elon came up with it, and then I'm like, okay, I have to give him credit. I have to. That's genuinely good. And now we can use it. Good. He came up with it.
Right.
He anticipated it, so okay, it works.
Yeah, it does work. Also,
Tallywhacker.
Okay, by the way, who is saying that? I cannot remember.
Madison Cawthorn.
It is Madison Cawthorn. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I was like, okay, that voice. Whose is that? So good. So
right.
Good.
Also,
testicles.
Well, yeah. So we. By the way, we do have plenty of talk about those things too. So, you know.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So we've got that. We're going to talk about Tucker Carlson, of course, blaming the shooting on mental illness. We have apparently fetuses are being used to power DC.
That's a banger. That is a banger.
Insane. We got Republicans basically admitting it. Yeah, we're coming for birth control.
Mm-hmm.
And then Alex Jones.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
Yep. So we've got all of that. This is going to be a fun segment, fun show, like I said. So why don't we dive into it? Before we do, of course, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Always helps us out. All right, Mike, let's get going.
Alrighty.
On Thursday, Insider posted a story alleging charges of sexual misconduct against Tesla founder Elon Musk. The allegations stemming from an incident in 2016 included exposing himself to a female flight attendant during a massage on his private jet. And, by the way, offering to buy her a horse in exchange for sexual favors. That's not exactly a gift horse.
I'm trying to figure out the thinking. Like, okay, I just did this. This is, very clearly over the line. Maybe to make things better, I can buy her a horse. I feel like there's other things that would come to your mind first that you would want to purchase someone. And he did buy her silence. She signed an NDA, if I'm not mistaken. So the horse situation, and it's so believable. That's an Elon thing to do, this random thing.
It really is. But more details here. Now, after she had reported the incident to SpaceX, Musk's company paid her that $250,000 as part of a severance agreement, or, again, as you mentioned, pretty much hush money. She claims that she was then retaliated against after she had rebuffed those advances. Now, this comes a day after Musk tweeted out his intention to become a Republican. Big shocker there, claiming Democrats are no longer the party of kindness, and claiming that political attacks on me will escalate dramatically in the coming months. Now, again, we know that Musk was contacted prior to that story being published in Insider. So apparently it seems to be kind of like a hindsight thing. Those tweets appear to be a way of him getting ahead of the scandal, which he has called Elongate. One of those tweets, by the way, included, "The attacks against me should be viewed through a political lens. This is their standard despicable playbook, but nothing will deter me from fighting for a good future and your right to free speech." Mike, give us your thoughts.
Yeah. So I have to comment on his tweet from maybe Monday or Tuesday, where he said that the political attacks on me are going to increase or be really common or something. So that was probably after Insider had contacted him, knowing. So listen, if you're a billionaire, it's not surprising that you're going to side with Republicans. David Dole made a great point on Twitter. He was saying that this is the Democratic Party's opportunity to say, yes, the richest man in the world doesn't support us. He's with Republicans. They're not going to take him, up on that. But, it's somebody else made a really great point. I wish I could give them credit, but they said that, Elon Musk strategically is aligning with Republicans because this is the party that forgave Trump for everything, grab him by the P word, all of the assaults. So if you really want to be at least politically influential and you have now this alleged allegation, then you have no choice. You have to align with Republicans. So your economic views also align. It kind of makes sense. Like his shifting here, it's all I think obvious. This is what he's doing. If they forgave Trump for all of that, they're going to forgive Elon.
Yeah, and I think it was Ryan Grimm that also tweeted something about this, and I may have gotten that wrong as well. But he's like, "What did you do?" Just a couple of days, before this had dropped, and when he had talked about going to become a Republican, what did you do on Twitter? And I thought that was pretty funny because, for all of the different points that you just pointed out, yes, the Republicans are the party of, we're going to let you get away. And this is ironic because they call themselves the party of morality. We're going to let you get away with all these different sex scandals. As long as you're a billionaire, as long as you're incredibly wealthy and on our side, you can get away with anything. However, if you're Madison Cawthorn and you call out Congress's cocaine sex parties, they will destroy you. And I think that's pretty interesting because here he says, and look, I believe him. I don't know if you believe him.
I do.
Yeah. Just the way that they went after him so incredibly viciously. And by the way, I really wish that establishment Democrats would go after people like Henry Cuellar, for example, or people who tank Biden's agenda half as vicious as Republicans go after them, leaking or whatever about their secret cocaine sex parties.
Right.
But unfortunately, we don't live in that world. We live in the world where Democrats will protect billionaires and of course, and anti-choice corporate Democrats as well. And Republicans will just straight up defend and side with sex offenders or even alleged sex offenders. I mean, remember Roy Moore, Dennis Hastert. Dennis Hastert's a literal pedophile. And so, I mean, you have so many different instances of Republicans basically turning their back on people that have engaged in scandalous, acts or whatever, and look at gay scandals as well. By the way, and again, that's kind of like Madison Cawthorn. Again, we don't care if you're gay on the left. We accept, we think gay is being, based. It's awesome. Like, go ahead and be gay, do your thing. It's great. We accept you. And we want you on our side.
Not with your cousin,
not on the Republicans, though. Not on the Republicans.
Yeah. You're exactly right. Not being gay with your cousin, though, because allegedly that's Madison Cawthorn. The video is with. I don't know if this was confirmed. It could just be a rumor. It's very bizarre. But yeah, I mean, for Republicans, they don't necessarily care about anything that Elon Musk does. He could be an alleged murderer. As long as he's owning the libs, everything is okay. They don't care about anything else. I mean, look at all of the terrible people. Like you named some of them. Jim Jordan. I mean, he covered up sex abuse. I mean, all of these people, they have skeletons in their closet. And they themselves, like, even though they purport to be the moral party, as you were saying, everyone knows that's all a facade. And it's a thinly veiled one because they don't even live to their own principles. So, they don't care about Elon Musk's, allegations. As long as he's going to keep owning the libs, trying to break up unions, they're okay with it.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And look, I'm going to get to some of the other stuff that had happened at Musk's company or companies. And but before I get to that, it is interesting how, Republicans have also been trying to crush the electric vehicle industry. I mean, they have passed numerous laws to try to take away tax breaks for people who buy electric vehicles, actually tax people more for buying electric vehicles. And so everything that the Republicans have done is actually against Elon Musk's business model. So he's not even a competent businessman when you look at that, and much less a genius or a super genius or whatever. He's an idiot with a really, really big ego. So
yeah, and I feel like he is like all billionaires. Like some of them may not be as outspoken. But deep down, they all have this God complex. That's at least my thinking. But I feel like they've all kind of revealed that, at least the ones that we've heard from. Yeah,
absolutely. It's the whole job creator mentality.
Yep. You owe me something.
Exactly. And by the way, Tesla has taken lots and lots of subsidies from the federal government. So this whole idea that Elon Musk is a self-made man is just playing into that myth.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me get into some more of the sexual harassment allegations against his companies and workers at his companies. 4 women who had worked at SpaceX spoke out about sexual harassment. They said they faced at the company where Musk is the CEO. One, Ashley Kosak, published an essay recounting being groped and touched inappropriately by male employees while she was an intern. 3 others, one of whom said she was bound by an NDA, recounted similar treatment to the New York Times. So, look, this is a pattern. You also had 6 women suing Tesla, where Musk, again, CEO, alleging sexual harassment at a factory. Men at the factory would ogle them and remark on their clothes, the complaint said, leading some women to wear baggy outfits and use stacks of boxes to obstruct the views of leering coworkers. Some of the women claimed that they were retaliated against when they came forward. And so there is this pretty sordid history, and I don't know who said it, but it's something that I think Cenk says all the time, the fish rots from the head down. He, of course, would refer to Donald Trump and the administration, but I think this is an apt application of that saying as well, because, I mean, what do CEOs do? They kind of set the company culture,
Yep.
And so, obviously, Musk seems to be, not a great guy. Let's just say that. Terrible to women. And that is reflected in the people that are hired in his companies, as well as the how women are treated at those companies. And by the way, one more thing too, let me add that an essay by Musk's first wife, actually, that was written back in 2010 has resurfaced. Justine Musk, born Jennifer Justine Wilson, was married to Musk from 2000 to 2008 and penned a lengthy and candid article about her marriage back in 2010, her marriage and divorce. So again, this was a long time ago. Nobody really paid too much attention to it, but that now it's actually gained some relevance here because it was titled "I Was a Starter Wife," and Justine had said that during her relationship, she became a trophy wife, and said that he treated her like an employee that he would consistently threaten to fire.
Wow.
One quote stood out, saying, "As we danced at our wedding reception, Elon told me, quote, I am the alpha in this relationship." So
megalomaniac.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and didn't he say, like, his defense initially was that, how is it that, and this is a horrible defense, by the way, but he said that, well, there's been no other allegations in all of my years at Tesla, and then the allegation with his wife is incredibly, incredibly serious. And today on Twitter, I'm not sure if you saw it yet, but he tweeted that these allegations are completely false, and he said, if this person wants to prove it, she can describe the way that my penis looks. And I'm
did
sorry,
see that.
like, to quote Dave Chappelle, of all people, terrible human being, but I think that he said it best, that like, me and my penis are like this, but I couldn't pick my penis out of a lineup. I couldn't describe what mine looks like. They all look the same. So how is that a win? Like, it's not the own that you think it is. And I love how people responded saying, okay, so did you not make her sign an NDA? Because why make her sign the NDA if you're innocent? Why give her money? I mean, somebody was given $250,000. So it's not adding up. And it all doesn't look good for Elon. And now with his wife, I haven't heard about this. I mean, it affirms what we've seen. And you made a great point, Jeff, about how, like, this is the culture that he curates there. He's like this edgelord shit poster online.
Right.
And this is, reflected in the company. There was also racism lawsuits where, one of their employees successfully sued and won, and the company has to pay millions of dollars because of overt racism. We're not talking about subtle racism and discrimination. We're talking about overt, explicit racism. So, I mean, everything that Elon has done makes this seem very plausible. I mean, his public persona, if his public persona is this bad, imagine what his private persona is.
Exactly. And by the way, one of the quotes from, I believe, the story in the racism is the supervisors would tell their African-American employees, welcome to the slave house.
Yeah. I mean, who says things like this? So to say something like that,
right?
The culture has got to be a nightmare to work.
Toxic.
There, especially
absolutely
if you're a woman.
toxic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I we've all had experiences with people who are insensitive and racist, when I worked at Blockbuster, people would bring up movies and they'd be like, oh, there's not enough white people. Like, they would literally say this to me. Like, we've all encountered this in real life, but to have it just like be in your face where it's like, welcome to the slave center. Like, who says that? Like, it has to be so toxic.
Well, I know who says stuff like that. Racist.
Exactly. Simply put.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to Tucker Carlson. Okay, we do have a video for this one. Fox host Tucker Carlson is desperately trying to deflect criticism directed at him for spreading the racist conspiracy theory, the Great Replacement or White Replacement, following the mass shooting at the Tops supermarket in Buffalo, New York. That shooting, of course, killed 10 African Americans. That shooter wrote a 180-page manifesto containing racist anti-Semitic language. And one part he pointed out how low white birth rates around the world were a crisis that will ultimately result in the complete racial and cultural replacement of the European people. Now, Tucker Carlson, however, in this next video claims that no, it's not the racist hatred, the rhetoric. No. This is just a case of mental illness. Take a look.
So they're continuing to tell you, in the face of all available evidence, that the mass murder you saw over the weekend in Buffalo was inspired by hateful right-wing rhetoric, when in fact that mass murder was committed by someone with diagnosed mental illness that the adults around him apparently ignored. Okay? So you saw a shooting by a crazy person that has been hijacked by partisan forces to crush political dissent, to attack civil liberties in this country. You should care about that.
All right, so now that right there, saying that he is mentally ill, that's a lie. That's not true. The suspect was reported to have undergone a psychiatric evaluation, but it was not publicly disclosed if he was diagnosed with a mental illness. Again, we don't actually know if he was mentally ill, but at the same time, blaming mental illness is not only super offensive to people with actual mental illness, because yes, the vast majority of people who have a mental illness do not go out and murder a bunch of people, especially black people, in racist hate crimes. But it's also just a super lazy excuse for, again, somebody who was indoctrinated into far-right conspiracy theories. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, it looks like a classic case of deflection. I mean, all eyes are on him for good reason, because he pushed this at the top of his lungs, for years now, about great replacement. And when people pushed back, he doubled down, he tripled down. So, of course, he wants you to think that there's some other scapegoat. And, maybe Tucker Carlson isn't the only catalyst here, but right. He is by far the biggest mainstream purveyor of white supremacy in this country. I mean, he took these explicitly white nationalist talking points and he mainstreamed them. I mean, as much as the Republican Party dog whistles, nobody has been able to accomplish what Tucker has. So, of course, he's going to say it's, mental health. Of course, these Republicans are going to go on Fox News and claim it's video games and all of this. But I think that they know what the truth is, and they're just trying to obfuscate. But absolutely make no mistake about it, Tucker has blood on his hands, and now he has to live with that. And I think that he probably deep down thinks that what the shooter did is good, because I mean, if you genuinely believe that you're being replaced or something like that, and democracy is dying, then if he's actually truthful and sincere, then he probably agrees with what the shooter did. He just won't tell you. Either that, or he's just a news actor and he's just saying things to galvanize white people. Either way, he's guilty, at least indirectly for this, obviously indirectly for this, but like, he's guilty and he doesn't want to admit that he played a part in this. Same with Ben Shapiro. I mean, the Christchurch shooter actually cited Ben Shapiro. I believe that was the shooter in his manifesto. And then, Ben Shapiro, of course, had to obfuscate, and now he's obfuscating right now, saying, of course, it's not Tucker Carlson, because I don't know, like, if it were me, I don't know that I would be able to live with myself if I encourage somebody to do violence like this. So, this is cognitive dissonance, what we're seeing. And it's more than cognitive dissonance. It's him really trying to propagandize the situation and convince his audience that it's not me. This is just a lone wolf. What I talk about, if you think violence is the answer, then you're mentally ill. But I mean, sure, maybe there were some issues with this individual in particular that were unaddressed. I'm not necessarily sure. But either way, Tucker doesn't get to escape accountability here. I mean, he will escape accountability, right, but he doesn't get to escape blame, more specifically.
Right. And look, I've been reading news articles, of course, like, oh, he displayed some erratic behavior, like going into class with wearing a full hazmat suit, in the midst of the COVID pandemic. Again, I think a lot of that just happens to be more trolly behavior than anything else. Because again, that's kind of what the 4chan boards and all those, different forums are kind of all about. Well, we're going to troll people, we're going to own the libs or whatever like that, and just play pranks and things like that. But again, at the same time, this guy meticulously planned out this attack and went to all of these boards and believed in these conspiracy theories, believed in this just absolute hatred towards other people, immigrants, Jewish people, especially black people, which he specifically scoped this place out. In fact, let's see, Gendron had claimed online research in choosing Buffalo as a site of attack, saying that the zip code has a higher black population than other locations that he had considering. He'd been considering going to a church or an elementary school. Again, monstrous on both all counts, absolutely monstrous. But he chose the market because, well, there was going to be more people, especially black people. And so that's where I wanted to go. And by the way, he had also planned on continuing the rampage if police had not cornered him or caught him at that time. If he was able to escape, he probably would have went to the churches and the elementary schools. But I want to go back to what you were talking about, with Tucker Carlson. Look, I think it's a little bit of both. What you were saying is he is a news actor, obviously, but at the same time, he does believe, I think, that what he's espousing is good. I think he does have a legitimate hatred of immigrants, black people, etc. And I think he also knows, and this plays really, really well with the base. That's why I'm the #1 rated cable news host. And so, both of those things are going well for him. And so, yeah, he's going to continue doing that. And by the way, I have some examples of some of the stuff that he was saying. I'm going to show you that right now.
Of course, you're not working to import as many new citizens as we can into the United States to replace all the disobedient ones who didn't vote for us. In other words, you're being replaced, and there's nothing you can do about it. So shut up. The great replacement theory, it's a lie, they yelled. George Soros has nothing to do with that. Stop talking. They said we were espousing something called the great replacement theory, a well-known racist fantasy. The great replacement. They acknowledge that it's real, and they love it. This policy is called the great replacement, the replacement of legacy Americans with more obedient people from faraway countries. The great replacement plan is working. Now, I know that the left and all the little gatekeepers on Twitter become literally hysterical if you use the term replacement, if you suggest that the Democratic Party is trying to replace the current electorate, the voters now casting ballots, with new people, more obedient voters from the third world.
I mean, look at, that's pretty clear, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he can't be more explicit. And I just want to direct everyone's attention to an animated video created by Mark Fier. He does a lot of really good leftist content, atheist content, and he just released a video today on the great replacement theory. And it's funny, but it's also educational. And the takeaway is that this is not new at all. This has always been the white supremacist message. Before it was Italians, it was all kinds of different people who came over. And it's never going to change. This is always going to be what they say. So this isn't necessarily something new. It's not a new message at all. It's just that Tucker Carlson has found a way to take this message and repopularize it again, which is so dangerous. It's one thing for a television host to say this. It's an entirely different thing for him to say this and then not drop a ton, millions of people just tune out and say, okay, this is too far. This is really explicit. This sounds like KKK stuff. And the fact that he's still the #1 news show in America shows that we've got a lot of problems in this country. And white supremacy has always been an issue in this country. But to see how easily duped his viewers are into believing the most explicit white supremacist conspiracy theories, it really should be a wake-up call for a lot of people. It should horrify people. People of color already know that this is prominent, but white people now are getting to see for the first time just how quickly and popular these beliefs spread. So it's time to wake up and acknowledge that this is a very, very serious issue, and we have to take it seriously. And push back, whenever you hear somebody in your own, and I'm not trying to come up with some individual solution because this needs to come down, from the government, but individually, we have to be really assertive. There's this Uber driver who went viral for this couple came into the car and they said, oh, well, thank goodness you're white. And he said, get out. That's racist. That's inappropriate. So we have to confront this, being not racist. That's great, right? But you have to literally be forcefully and vocally anti-racist in this climate, especially now. Because I just see like with my family members, they might share something online and they don't even realize it's a QAnon meme. Not to change the subject, so I have to really constantly educate them, try to explain to them, like give them some media literacy training to the extent that I can. It's an ongoing battle, and I feel like it's going to continue to get worse because, I mean, if somebody in this country is economically, depraved and, they see that this news host is saying, here's why, it's immigrants. It's because you're being replaced, and they don't have any other explanation for that. It's going to land a lot more. I'm not saying that like if economic conditions improved, if we had a socialist utopia, that white supremacy would just go away. It's never going to go away under any circumstance. But it makes the breeding ground a lot more fertile with these situations. Absolutely. And people are much more susceptible to radicalization. And I just want people to really look out for that.
Absolutely. In fact, to back that up, 30% of Republicans say that because things have gotten so far off track, true American patriots may have to resort to violence in order to save our country. And so this is a situation that we're in. We have a flourishing white supremacist movement. Again, Tucker Carlson literally getting praised by people like Nick Fuentes for using their talking points, David Duke, all of that. Now, Tucker Carlson did not originate white supremacy or white nationalism. And again, we all know that. And he's not the sole cause. But as you pointed out, he's a pretty big purveyor, one of the biggest purveyors with an enormous reach. And all of the stuff that he is saying has been normalized in the Republican Party. And that is incredibly dangerous. And by the way, I just have to note that there are certain leftists out there that are saying, oh, well, Tucker Carlson, I mean, we shouldn't take him off the air or anything like that. Or, I believe in free speech. And he's not really explicitly going out there and saying that, that you should have violence against immigrants or anything like that. That's very disappointing to see. It's very disappointing.
Yeah, he absolutely should be deplatformed. And I don't use that word lightly.
Yeah.
But what he is doing is instigating violence. Like, it is dangerous. It's not just that he's spreading misinformation, but this should not happen. But, people have gone after his advertisers, and he doesn't have much, to my understanding. But Fox keeps him on because he brings in eyeballs, and that's, better overall for the network. So it's a really dark, dangerous situation. And, if we can't even agree that a white supremacist shouldn't be on cable, then I don't know how to go forward as a country, right? It's dark times. It's the darkest timeline. Yeah.
Yeah. We're in the bad place, Mike. We're in the bad place.
It's scary.
It is. All right. Why don't we move on? Let's go to reproductive rights. I think this is a very important thing. All right. An anti-abortion activist recently testified that abortions were being used to literally keep the lights on in Washington, D.C. Take a look.
Abortion activism always requires euphemism and misdirection. Why? Because of the violent nature of abortion, because it is, frankly, inconvenient. Human persons, from their earliest days, poisoned in the womb and dismembered, torn limb from limb. Bodies thrown in medical waste bins and, in places like Washington, D.C., burned to power the lights of the city's homes and streets. Let that image sink in with you for a moment. The next time you turn on the light, think of the incinerators. Think of what we're doing to ourselves so callously and so numbly.
Oh my God, the lights are on. Think of the babies. Think of the aborted babies. Baby-powered lights.
How many babies were burned to power these lights behind me and ahead and on top of me?
I have turned on my air conditioner. How many babies are being sacrificed to keep me cool and comfortable? Oh my God. All right.
If they were able to do this, I mean, couldn't we power cities with like splooge. I mean, not to be gross, but I mean, if we're saying these are human beings that we're burning, can we all just like solve the energy crisis ourselves?
do your part to keep the lights on. Jerk off. Now, look, before you think that this is some random nut job who came in off the street, which certainly sounds like one, I want to give you some information about her. Her name is Catherine Glenn Foster, and she is the president and CEO of Americans United for Life, a Georgetown Law School graduate who gets $190,000 a year to be the president of one of the largest nonprofits in the country that is anti-choice. And she's talking about baby furnaces. Insanity.
$190,000 a year. Jesus Christ. We're in the wrong business, Jeff. I mean,
we are. If
I can just make up things too, and get paid $190,000 per year, I mean, what am I doing on YouTube?
We really have chosen terrible careers. But yes, there's so much insanity over this whole thing. I mean, I've been talking about this for ever since like the decision, leaked decision on Roe v. Wade had dropped, and the eventual stripping of reproductive rights in this country, which is I think is absolutely insane. But the stuff that they're saying, the stuff that they come up with is just crazy.
It's not a salami sandwich. It's a viable baby in the womb.
I mean, just insanity, absolute insanity. And I've got some examples, but did you want to weigh in first, or let me show you more the insanity that happened at this hearing?
Sure.
All right, let's do it.
Let me ask you, do you support the right of a woman who is just seconds away from birthing a healthy child to have an abortion?
I think that the question that you're asking does not realistically reflect abortion care.
In that scenario, would you support her right to abort that child?
I won't entertain theoreticals.
It's not a theoretical, ma'am. You're a medical doctor.
I am a medical doctor, and that has never happened.
Never happened in your practice, ma'am, but it happens. How about if a child is halfway out of the birth canal? Is an abortion permissible then?
Can you repeat your question?
If a child is halfway delivered out of the birth canal, is it permissible to have an abortion? Would you support the right for an abortion then?
I can't even fathom that ever.
I'm not asking you if you can fathom it. If it occurred, would you support that abortion or not? That's unrestricted abortion, right?
That's a question that I can't imagine. Just like you probably can't imagine what you would do if your daughter was raped. If it hasn't happened, it may be difficult for you.
You're not going to answer this question.
Wow.
Not only that, you also had Representative Chip Roy asking Dr. Robinson whether she's ever stored baby parts like arms or legs in freezers or in Pyrex dishes. That entire hearing was a clown show.
I don't know how to even respond to some of these claims. It's utterly insane. I mean, first and foremost, I don't even like to engage with the whole when does life begin thing, because this is about a medical procedure that a woman and her doctor will discuss. So my philosophy literally does not matter. It doesn't matter at all. But they claim, oh, this is murder because there's a heartbeat at 6 weeks. So if it has a heartbeat, then you're killing a life. We have heartbeats. But the thing is that, okay, and one of my patrons, Andrea, she made this great point. Take it to the other end of the extreme, right? So if somebody is 85 years old and they have no brain activity, but they're hooked up to a machine, and their lungs are still working, their heart's still pumping blood, but there's no brain activity, but there's a heartbeat there still, right? Is that a life? When does life end? You know what I mean? So if it's all just about a heartbeat, then I think that's an oversimplification. And it really, at the end of the day, what we think about when life begins, answering this philosophical question quite literally does not matter. As I stated, I mean, life can begin at ejaculation because, a fetus is a potential life. This is the argument that they make. But also, there are millions of sperm in any load. Not to be gross again, but it's true. So is that genocide? Because those are all potential lives. You know what I mean? So it's a dumb philosophical debate. And I hate that we almost have to engage in this because that's what they talk about. That's how they get people, is by, trying to pull on their heartstrings and say, look, this is a baby. And they'll show a picture of like a 2-year-old toddler. Like, look, they're aborting these. It's insanity. And that last clip really demonstrates how they don't live in reality. Oh, well, if a baby is halfway out of a birth canal, would you support an abortion? That's just called delivering a baby. I mean, how many women are 8 months pregnant and they're like, I changed my mind? I mean, they want the baby. Representative Macbeth had a really, really great testimony on this. The Young Turks covered it. And she was talking about how, she needed an abortion so that way, because her baby had already died. She had a miscarriage. But she wanted an abortion so that way she didn't have to deal with the pain of delivering a baby, but not actually getting a live baby, not getting to hold a live baby.
Right.
So, these instances that they fabricate, these hypothetical situations, they're not based in reality. And to see, the doctor like be genuinely confused, it's just, I think that people need to see a doctor's face when these questions are asked because it's just insane.
Yeah, and look, the reason they come up with these hypotheticals, and you saw this with Tim Pool, by the way. Tim Pool debating Matt Binder. And the reason that they even got the debate was when he tweeted, what happens if a woman is on the way to get an abortion at 8 months but goes into labor in the lobby of the abortion clinic and accidentally delivers the baby before it could be terminated? Again, it's the edge cases, it's the hypotheticals, and they do this, on purpose. Because, look, I don't think they actually care about the question of when life begins. I think a lot of the politicians that have weighed in on this, I don't think they actually care. Now, of course, there are some people that actually do care. They're like, well, we believe life begins at conception and things like that. Okay, again, science will disagree with you on that. That it is just a fetus and a zygote. By the way, even the Bible disagrees with them.
Right.
And that says, and yes, we do not live under a theocracy, so it shouldn't freaking matter. But it says life begins with your first breath. They don't even care about their own source material. But look, in reality, of course, they say all this stuff and come up with these weirdo hypotheticals because it fits their narrative. They have to lie to people because over 70% of Americans think that having an abortion, that Roe should be upheld, basically, that it is between a woman and her doctor and that the government should not be involved in that decision. But here are Republicans, notable supposed anti-government, saying, no, actually, we want big government involved even more. We want it such small government that it fits up your uterus.
Yeah. Have that baby so we can deny it baby formula and deny it child care and health care. It's just the fact that they're called pro-life is just absurd to me. Like that people actually go with this moniker. Whenever I hear like a leftist or a liberal call them pro-life, I cringe because it's like, no, they're not pro-life at all. They're actually pro-death, because if you are forcing women to give birth, like this is a pro-death position. Not all women who get pregnant can give birth. And if they seek out an abortion that's unsafe or illegal, then that is going to jeopardize their health. Like I told the story of my friend who shared on Facebook that her mom explained her abortion that she had, and she was basically blindfolded, and then she, was taken off. Then she was in someone's basement. She had the abortion. It was very sketchy. And then she was left at a bus stop, and she thought, how many women did not come out of that basement? And she was crying, telling this story to my friend, because she said, look, I'm so thankful that you're never going to have to go through this. Your generation will never have to go through this. And it's like, here we are.
Yeah, we're fighting that fight again. We're back 50 years, or about to be back 50 years when it comes to women having basic control over their own bodies. And what's terrible, and I know this is weird, like coming from like two, white dudes talking about it, right? But this is a horrible situation for women and their own rights that they have fought for and deserve. And it shouldn't be, I realize it shouldn't be people like us that are leading the conversation. We should be, allies and speaking up for women. And by the way, not just women, but also, trans people, non-binary, Anyone with a uterus is affected by this, and will be in certain states forced to have children that they do not want. And by the way, there are there are conservatives out there that say things like, well, that's okay, but you can have the baby, and then just put them in the foster system or up for adoption. And then they don't fund the foster system, which is in complete and utter disarray. And again, they don't fund basic things that help take care of the children once they are actually born. They are not pro-life, they are pro-birth. And by the way, it all comes down to really control over their bodies. That's what it is.
And that's exactly it. They want to punish women for having sex. That's what it's about too.
We'll get to that.
That whole adoption thing. One of the TikTokers that I follow, I think it's the Good Liars or something like that. He was asking pro-life protesters, forced birthers, well, if you think that adoption is an option, because that was the signs that they were holding, how many kids have you adopted? He just went around, oh, well, I haven't adopted any. I mean, and then he asked another one, oh, well, I don't have zero, but other people they won't walk the walk. They'll only talk the talk. Yeah. It's truly absurd to me that this is even a conversation. I mean, this is like, we're quite literally putting women in barbaric conditions. Every other country is moving forward to an extent, and we're like going back at the speed of light, and it's just truly horrifying.
Let me add in too, by the way, that the people that are pushing adoption are also the same kinds of people that are preventing gay couples from adopting children as well. The same kind of people that, by the way, are also going after Dave Rubin and his husband for having a surrogacy and calling them baby snatchers and pedophiles. And so there's quite a bit of hypocrisy when it comes from that side.
Absolutely. It's just the hypocrisy is endless. And I feel like normal people do see through it. Like, as brainwashed as Americans can be, the fact that popularity for Roe has surged, that honestly gave me a little bit of hopium, because, I thought, okay, it's clear that Republicans don't want to talk about this because, they're trying to distract. Look at the leak. Look at the protesters. Because I think that they know that most Americans are with Roe. And to see support, skyrocket for abortion after Republicans have had their chance to kind of propagandize it, it gave me hope, because I think that most Americans are just reasonable here. We understand, these situations that they come up with are absurd. I mean, 90+% of all abortions occur within the first trimester. Right. And the only time we talk about late-term abortions, which is what they have to focus on, is in really edge cases where the life of the mother is in danger, or the child will be born stillbirth. So you're going to force a woman to deliver a stillbirth. It's barbaric, however you slice it. And they want to frame this as, oh, well, it's about protecting life. Okay, well, why don't you come out in favor of abolishing the death penalty? Why don't you come out in favor of universal health care, single payer? Why don't you come out in favor of ending every single war that we're still doing? They won't do it, So it's just to say that they're pro-life, the moniker is nauseating. No, we're the pro-lifers. You're the pro-deathers, because that's your consistent stance on literally every single issue. If we can't even have health care in this country, then and you're against it, you're not pro-life. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. By the way, their pro-life, so-called pro-life stance also does not extend to immigrant children in detention, where they were literally saying, we should probably, you know what we should do? We should we should take this formula away from the migrants, and give it to American babies. Real pro-life.
How pro-life? How pro-life?
Exactly. All right, let's move on. Let's go to, by the way, you kind of foreshadowed this one. We're going to talk about how Republicans basically admitting that they want to get rid of birth control. A Michigan Republican candidate who was endorsed by Donald Trump, former President Trump, recently admitted that, yes, in the discussion of banning abortion, Roe v. Wade, she would also, in fact, vote to ban birth control. Take a look.
How do you answer the local press person who might be your age and just sees you as some loony that she wants to take away your birth control?
Well,
in the state of Michigan.
Sure. So I guess we have to ask ourselves, would that ever come to a vote in the Michigan State Legislature? And if it should, I would have to side with it should not be legal. And I think that people believe that birth control is it's better, like you said, because, oh, then you won't get pregnant and you won't need to have an abortion. But I think that it gives people the false sense of security that they can have consequence-free sex, and that's not true and it's not correct. Sex ought to be between one man and one woman in the confines of marriage.
And open to life.
And open to life, absolutely.
So that was Republican candidate Jackie Eubanks. And, well, look at that. That's your pro-freedom, pro-First Amendment party trying to force their religion on everyone else while taking away your freedom. They just admitted it, Mike.
Yeah, I honestly am thankful that they're saying all of these crazy things. I'm glad, right? Because it's important that we all stop talking about the far left. I mean, the media has made the far left the boogeyman when the far right has been the driver of, democratic decline, of voter suppression. So to have them just say, yeah, I want to take away contraception too. Thank you, because you're making my case for me and you're showing how unserious you are. If you want to stop abortions, you expand access to contraception, but they want to ban abortions and contraception, and they literally want to control your sex life. How bizarre is that? This is the Freedom Party. You want to control people's sex lives? No, you can't actually have sex until marriage. Okay, well, people are doing it. So are you gonna ban that next? I mean, if you ask her, I mean, if she's gonna be principled as a Christian, I think she'd have to say, well, yeah, I think that we should ban sex, before marriage. Then it's like, okay, well, logically, the next question would be, how do you enforce that? Well, of course, people have to check in. We have to, I don't know how you would enforce that, but you would have to come up with something, and it would have to be very authoritarian. So these people are absolutely tyrannical. They are authoritarian, and what they want is a theocratic, fascistic country where they control you, and that to them is freedom. So if you tell them, well, that doesn't sound like freedom. Oh, it's freedom for them. It sounds great to them.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just, I don't think that she realizes how bad this world would be for her as a woman if she got everything that she wanted, if this dystopia came to fruition.
Exactly. She's literally signing up to be a broodmare, essentially.
Right.
It's really, it is amazing. It's amazing the kind of brainwashing that certain, and again, I'm not like against all religions, right? Or all religious practices. I think it's fine if you believe in a religion and practice it in your own life. Hey, if you're against abortion, or even if you're personally against birth control, don't take it. Don't take it. Don't get an abortion. Don't take birth control. Pop out as many kids as you freaking want. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I don't give a shit. When I do actually give a shit is when they start saying, no, you have to do it. You have to follow my rules. You have to do everything that I say in my book, in my religious text. No, fuck you. I'm not going to do it. No, you know what I want?
Sexual anarchy.
I want sexual fucking anarchy. That's what I want. I want us to be able to do and make the decisions that we want as adults, as human beings. That's freedom. That's real freedom. And so it really does piss me off. And again, I'm not even the one that's going to be the most affected by this.
Yeah.
You and I, we're not going to be really affected if you ban birth control or even abortion. But it comes down to principle, and it also comes down to protecting people who will be affected by this. Women, transgender people, non-binary, anybody that has a uterus that is capable of getting pregnant, those are the people that are going to be affected the most by this. And those are the people that we have to stand up as allies to defend against this monstrous barbarism coming from the right wing. And by the way, one more thing too, she says, and this is how you know it's about control, we don't want you having consequence-free sex. We don't want you having sex. We want there to be consequences. So wait, a baby then is not life. It's not a gift. It's a consequence for you having fun. Wait, that sounds pretty, first of all, not very pro-life and pretty fucking authoritarian.
Yeah. this is why they all slowly but surely are becoming more undemocratic, because you can't push this agenda on a nation who unequivocally rejects it. I mean, think about just like politically for a second. If we put our heads in the minds of strategists, we have to drop a few IQ points. But I mean, think about like who this appeals to. Young Republicans, do they not want to have sex? I mean, I'm sure a lot of them are Christian, but I mean, times have changed. This is really an antiquated way of thinking. Even that's true. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, like if you're a young conservative couple, you know, and maybe you don't want to have kids, is this going to appeal to you? So I feel like the only way that they can carry out this agenda is to just go straight, you know, authoritarian, do it through brute force, do it through the Supreme Court, have it, you know, imposed from top to bottom. It's truly like it's insane. Like I feel like that person has to be mentally unwell, not to be ableist, but I feel like to actually say those words and say what I want should be imposed on everyone is absurd. Okay, well maybe I think that everyone should have a beard and it should be mandated by law. That's absurd, but I want it though. No, we don't get what we want, and I don't want that, by the way. That'd be weird and stupid. But I mean, like you understand what I'm saying? Like we don't get what we want. We don't get to tell other people how to live and express themselves. But this is the entire conservative project, and it always has been. They're trying to do it to trans people. Nope, you can't actually have your kid who's transgender wear dresses. You have to put them in boys' clothes if they were born with male parts, because you know, freedom of speech. That's what I think that maybe it was Florida or some southern lawmaker had proposed this. Like they actually want to ban gender expression. Like they want to control every single aspect of your body. And ironically, as they do this, they'll claim, well, we're for free speech. Look at how authoritarian the left is. It's just, it's insane.
Yeah, it's very theocratic. And by the way, look, there are theocracies in this world, places like Iran, that literally do tell people that you must have a beard. You must grow a beard under penalty of law. You must wear a burqa, Afghanistan, you know, and not show your face. Anything but your eyes is not permissible. That's what they want to do. This is the American Taliban. This is Al Qaeda. You know, being the most
they could move to
extreme.
Saudi Arabia.
They could. Well, but of course, Muslims, right? They don't like Muslims.
That's true. That's true. It's like they tell us, get out if you don't like it. Yeah. Or what's the phrase that I've heard? Love it or leave it. It's like, okay, love it or leave it. Like you can't just like impose your religion on all of us. I mean, each generation is becoming less and less religious. Like we are a secular nation, like it or not. We have a secular constitution, like it or not. You can't do this. It's unconstitutional, you know, but yet they will try, and they will try to do it by any means necessary, even if that means killing democracy. These people are psycho.
Yeah, and by the way, going back to what you were saying about her, I don't think that's necessarily mentally mental illness or anything like that. No, it's propaganda. It's indoctrination, and that's what it is. This is why conservatives want to get rid of education. Why they've consistently defunded education all over this country. Why they're attacking education right now. Why they push abstinence only sex education in schools. Why they're attacking and going after LGBT plus books or anything that has to do with any sort of sex, claiming that it's pornographic when it's actually not. And so this is an assault on not only, education, but also on just the idea of having sex, the whole idea of sex education, making sure that people do it in a safe way that does not result in a pregnancy that is unwanted or result in sexually transmitted infections and things like that. This is an assault on all of that. It's an assault on facts and logic, all to push this worldview that is essentially all about control.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I mean, it kind of shows you why they're going after the schools so viciously. You know, with CRT, with Don't Say Gay, they want to push privatization because that is the best way that you can just straight up indoctrinate children into Christianity. So yeah, phenomenal point there.
And by the way, she's not the only people that have been talking about this. You have Republican politicians literally talking about getting rid of Griswold v. Connecticut, having the court go after that next. And of course, Obergefell also likely on the chopping block, because you hear the same rhetoric, right, from the right wing that have been talking about that. Oh, we won't actually get rid of Griswold. We won't actually get rid of Obergefell, but we really, really disagree with those positions. But it's established law. Well, you know who else? Or you know what they also said about Roe? They said that it was established precedent. They said, oh, well, you know, we're not going to get rid of that. Look, no, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, all of them lied during their confirmation hearings. Alito, when asked about this. Well, of course. Mm-hmm. They all lied about this. Of course they're coming after these things, because that is their end goal. This is their entire plan. Senator Marsha Blackburn also calls Griswold constitutionally unsound. Arizona GOP Senate candidate Blake Masters said he would only support judges who understand that Roe, Griswold, and Casey were wrongly decided, all decided, of course, on privacy, and that there is no constitutional right to any of this, especially abortion. GOP lawmakers also have pushed personhood legislation that would classify fertilized eggs as people, which, by the way, means that they would effectively criminalize miscarriages. Mm-hmm. So, hey, if you have a miscarriage, that was a person, you are now guilty of murder. And in a lot of the places where these personhoods, these fetal personhood bills have been proposed, are death penalty states. So they're going to put women to death for having a miscarriage, and that's even, by the way, if they have been raped or victim of incest. But no, we're pro-life. We're pro-life. We're such a pro-life party, and we're pro-freedom.
So pro-life, they will kill you if you have a miscarriage or get an abortion.
We're so pro-life, we're gonna fucking kill you.
There's no words to really capture the insanity of this moment that we're living in. Alito even he cited Lawrence v. Texas. Yep. As one of the laws that or one of the rights that are not enumerated in the Constitution, which means that like it would effectively ban gay people from being intimate, which I don't know how you enforce that, but he wants to do that. Like, you know, he's saying, look, I'm a textualist, so if it's not in the Constitution, then it's not a right. And that's a very healthy way for a society to develop, is it not? But it's just these people are absolutely out of their minds. And you're right. It's brainwashing, and it's easy to chalk it up, as I did, to like, oh, they've got to have like a few screws loose, right? Like, how can you be this authoritarian and theocratic and not see the hypocrisy, see through the hypocrisy? But I mean, we're blasted with propaganda everywhere, everywhere we go, you know, and these aren't just, you know, things that we see on TV. They're reinforced. Like, how many people have I, you know, talked to in my family who have heard what somebody told them, and they saw that on Facebook, and I have to like Google it and debunk it for them. Yeah, it's just it feels like you know, every time we take 2 steps forward, we go like 10 steps back as a country. So it's frustrating.
Yeah, and by the way, you know, again, it just makes me think like what the end goal is. I mean, when you kind of tie everything together, and maybe this is just my like, call it my conspiracy. Right. So I'm going to get a little conspiratorial here for a second. Okay, so they want to ban abortion. Okay, then they're going to ban same-sex marriage, of course, same-sex relationships, ban, you know, birth control, and then, you know, of course, kick out immigrants. And what is that going to do? Well, that's going to increase white babies, isn't it? And that's their whole. I think maybe that's part of what's behind it. Well, we got to bring up the white birth rate, so we're going to force women to be broodmares.
Yeah, it really serves 2 purposes, in my opinion. It does that. It kind of leads them to this white ethno state that they all want. Yep. And on top of that, it serves capitalism beautifully, right? Because workers are getting absolutely tired of the system, and you know they're standing up, and you know they're trying to make, you know, lives for themselves, livings for themselves in different ways. You know, these companies, these factories, you know, they're going to need more workers. So you force those women to have work, and you serve the machine. And soldiers, absolutely. So, you know,
military industrial complex.
to keep this machine running. So it serves so many purposes for them. And that's why they're all gung-ho about it. And they won't say that to you, but that's what it is. Because again, like Jeff and I have proven that if they're pro-life, not the best way to go about it at all.
Yeah, and of course add in destroying education, making it only for rich people. So you have a bunch of uneducated, basically cheap labor, essentially, that you can send into the mines, you can send into the factories, who, you know, will never, again, why did they not, the slave owners, make sure to not educate the slaves? Why did they make that a law, a rule where you couldn't educate slaves?
Yeah.
Because it's harder. Yeah, it's much more likely for an educated person to overthrow their oppressor.
Yeah, and just even like going back to a year or so, how did these states respond to worker shortages? They legalized child labor essentially in certain states. I mean, they're kind of just putting it all out there in the open. Like we're seeing like the latest stage of capitalism imaginable, and it's not sustainable. Like it is bound to collapse at some point. When that's going to happen, I'm not sure. Maybe it's not in our lifetimes, but this is like the end stage where everything is commodified, and we're to the point where women now are forced to give birth because we need more cogs in that machine. We need this white ethno state. It leaves me speechless when I think about like the period that we're in. Sometimes it's just so.
Yeah,
it's so bizarre.
What was the? I mean, I remember seeing a phrase somewhere, and I'm sorry that I can't recall exactly where I saw it, but something about being capital stock, and then Amy Coney Barrett also writing something about there needing to be a domestic supply of infants.
I forgot that she said that.
So dystopian.
Just
incredible.
Admitting it, right?
But I wish I could remember where I saw the capital stock thing, because I mean that again is another part of this that is very
I know exactly
disturbing.
what you're talking about. I'm so glad that you brought that up. I'm so glad you remember that. Yeah.
All right. Why don't we go from abortion here to penis size?
That's a great transition.
Let's talk about some dicks.
He's not dicking around. Love it.
All right. Alex Jones is very concerned about the size of your penis.
So the frogs are a canary in the coal mine. The frogs are a canary in the coal mine. They are a example of where we are. So here's a big study. Atrazine induces complete feminization and chemical castration in male African clawed frogs. And it does this to humans as well. That's why genitals, I don't care if you're black or white, are a third the size they were of a 1960s male. So the media makes jokes about that a few months ago when I gave the example of, you know, if your daddy's Johnson was a foot long, yours is 6 inches long. And if yours was 6 inches, your son will be 3 inches. And the one with them won't even have a penis. So you make jokes about that all day long, but this isn't a game.
This isn't a game, Mike. It's not a game. It's not a game. Dicks are shrinking. Everybody sound the alarm. This is the most serious thing that has ever happened. We have to do something to save the peepees. I mean, you know, let's forget that reproductive rights are being stripped from, you know, women. Totally not important, but we gotta worry about the dick size. Now, before I get into how every conspiracy theory has a little bit of kernel of a truth, and I'm going to point that out, I want you to weigh in, Mike. Take a look.
I was just going to say that, like, I'm not worried. Why is he so worried? Why is this an issue for him? How do you quantify this? Like, is there literally a study that I'm missing that like talked about the dick sizes of men in the 60s? Like, is this like actual research that needs to happen, that needs to be funded? Like, I don't get it. But I mean, I have nothing to be concerned about. It seems like he has a lot to be concerned about, folks. I don't know.
It kind of feels like it, right? So, yeah. I mean, it's really absolute lunacy. And by the way, speaking of lunacy, he goes on, he says they're targeting all of us together right now. We are being hit by chemical and biological attack. Anyone that has survived COVID or the poison shot, so of course it's got to be anti-vax, is a survivor of a biological, nanotech, synthetic, genetically engineered system that has all come after
Tallywhacker.
Your balls, your cock.
Perfect. I was hoping you'd hit that.
So, I mean, now let's go to where there is a kernel of truth, because again, every conspiracy theory does contain tiny bit of truth. So look, are chemicals having an impact on sperm counts and reproduction? Turns out a little bit. So now he talked about, and that's why I left that in the clip, atrazine. So atrazine is a very common herbicide being used in the United States, right? It's also incredibly dangerous. I mean, so much so that it's actually been banned or phased out in many European countries, but not in America. Now, there's concerns about birth defects, cancer, all that stuff. Now, however, this is interesting, right? So Alex Jones goes after the atrazine, but the Trump administration in 2019 approved atrazine for another 15 years. Now, and it's funny because progressives called that out at the time. In fact, we have Nathan Donnelly, a senior scientist at the Center for Biologic Diversity, said this, quote, use of this extremely dangerous pesticide should be banned, not expanded. This disgusting decision directly endangers the health of millions of Americans, adding, this decision imperils the health of our children and the safety of drinking water supplies across much of the nation. No one will be left untouched by the bad decision the EPA had just made. Again, the Trump EPA. And in humans, by the way, atrazine is associated with thyroid, ovarian, and other cancers, low birth outcomes, preterm delivery, and birth defects. So now, again, Trump administration, so it's actually Trump trying to shrink your dick. Is it? I mean, are you going to say that? Alex Jones, are you going to come out and go after Donald Trump and say, Donald Trump, he's leading the New World Order. He's going to try to shrink your dick. That's what he's doing. The frogs, the canary in the coal mine with the shrinking dicks, and it's all Donald Trump's fault with the Trump EPA. No, he's not going to say that. He's not going to say that. And by the way, I don't know if shrinkage is one of the effects of atrazine, but based on what we know already, we should probably take Europe's, example. We should follow that example and ban it. That would be great.
Yeah, that'd be absolutely amazing. And if there is some effect with atrazine, I'm sure that it's not going to be like literally the way he explained it, where it's like, okay, well, if your grandfather had a foot-long dong, then you'd have 6 inches. Like, okay, how can you not see that he's obviously fabricating this and making this up? But yeah, what you said is absolutely apt. Like, we are constantly, people on the left exclusively are calling for regulations on these chemical companies. I mean, Trump deregulated many industries, and I'm not sure what specific industry led to this that he deregulated, but he basically caused an E. coli outbreak with lettuce. Does everyone remember, like in 2017, 2018, where lettuce was basically it was off the shelves? It was something to do with the water that they were using for the lettuce, and that Trump had deregulated. So, I mean, this is why regulations are really important. They protect us from these businesses who want to cut corners to make an extra buck or two. And this is all that the left wants, is to rein in big business. But people like Alex Jones is like, no, that's big government. That's New World Order.
That's communism.
Well, you can't have it both ways. Like, I think that there is a lot to be concerned with. There's a bunch of studies coming out now that are horrifying about how we have like micro plastics in our bodies and bloodstreams and stuff like that in our lungs. So, we absolutely haven't been doing a good job at regulating these companies, because they will cut corners to save money, and you have to stop them from doing that by force through use of the government. So, I mean, it's frustrating to see people like him complain about this, see people like Marjorie Greene complain about vaccines when they're the ones who support deregulation the most.
Exactly. I mean, the Trump administration had a policy, for every one regulation that was enacted, 2 had to be repealed. And so, the increase in chemicals, like the microplastics, and the atrazine, as well as PFAS, which is very important. I'm going to get to a little bit on that and how that actually does shrink your dick. I'm serious. Again, they fight. This is a side that fights against regulation. And Alex Jones, of course, he's on the side of not regulating, because if we did regulate these things, if we did actually ban some of these more harmful things, then what is he going to rail out on the show? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? What is he going to talk about? What is he going to make a conspiracy out of? But
and also, he doesn't want regulations because, I mean, wasn't it found that his materials that he was hawking had like lead contained in them? So, you know, regulations would have stopped that, right? These supplements that aren't regulated that he sells, it would have stopped that and cut into his, you know, bottom line, you know, cut into his pockets. So, yeah.
Yeah, the what $165 million he made over 3 years hawking these just unregulated, you know, supplements and prepper gear on his show. I mean, and by the way, that's also at the same time he was talking about the Sandy Hook massacre and lying about it and getting these people who had lost their children stalked, having to, you know, made them have to move several different times because their fans, his insane fans, kept going after them and attacking them and accusing them of being crisis actors. And I mean, it's just disgusting what this person, what Alex Jones has done. But again, let's go to chemicals, right? Let's talk a little bit more about chemicals. So again, PFAS, right? So now there was a study. It's very, very small sample size, by the way. So let me just get that out of the way. Of 383 young men from the Veneto region in northeastern Italy. So this is very localized, right? That study did link some penis size and declining sperm count to PFAS. Within Veneto, there were geographic zones with varied levels of PFAS contamination from big corporations. A group of 212 men who live in these areas with higher intermediate PFAS exposure and had high levels of these chemicals in their bodies had an average penis size of about 10% lower than the average of a group of 171 men from an area without exposure. Wow. So there are chemicals that maybe show that it is certainly possible to have these chemicals shrink your dick, right? But it's not the government, it's not the New World Order, it's not the communists, it's not the people that are trying to turn all the frogs gay and hyper-feminize women and feminize men. No, it's corporate greed. If anything, it's the corporations, it's the corporate greed and the unchecked deregulation by these companies that want to make an extra buck that is causing these issues. And we really should do something about it. And again, people like Jones and Trump and all the corporate CEOs, and they don't want to do anything because that means a little less money in our pocket, and we can't have that. We'd rather poison everyone else.
Oh, that's more important. You know, that's a what is it from Shrek, Lord Farquaad, where he's like, some of you may die, but that's the price I'm willing to pay.
Yes, exactly. Man. All right. Look, that's everything that I've got today prepared. Thank you for staying over time. We're like 20 minutes over, but it was an excellent discussion. I really appreciate you coming on the show. A lot of fun. Look, why don't you, plug any projects or anything that you're doing to my audience, just in case they don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you could find me here on YouTube, The Humanist Report. I'm on Twitch every Wednesday at 6 p.m. PST. Or is it 7? No, it is 6. It's 6. I'm everywhere. So yeah, look me up, The Humanist Report.
Awesome. Do you want to say I've got some super chats that I want to read if you want to say for that?
Yeah, let me run to the bathroom first, then I'll be back. Is that okay?
Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Sure. Mike and Jeff make a good team. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. A lot of fun. Let me just go through and just read some of the comments that don't involve Mike until he gets back. And by the way, you can help us out by, super chat, Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. You can help us out. by doing that, going there. Really appreciate that. And I will, by the way, have more guests that will come on the show. Jeff, you need to come back on TYT. I would love to get invited. Piss break during the live feed. That's the first. Have you ever been on Twitch? They do that all the time. They do actually do that all the time. I never do usually, but I'm usually not streaming for like 6 hours at a time. So that's kind of like the other thing. But yeah, I would like to go on other people's shows. Again, I was on TYT probably about last week. No, a couple weeks ago. And yeah, I will go and try to be, in different places, go on different shows. Because I got to get out there. It's always fun to go and do other people's shows. I do need to get David Dole. Notoriously difficult to get that to get David on the show. By the way, again, is super busy. But so is pretty much everyone, though. Do you think they'll go after vasectomies? And if they try to ban women's birth control? Honestly, I don't know. I don't think they'll pass any law that affects a man. So I don't think they'll ban Viagra at all.
Okay, I'm back.
Welcome back, Mike. Yeah, no, not a problem. Hey, nature calls, right?
Yes. I had coffee like right before I came on.
I did too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I was a little late getting the show started. So, hey, we're honest about this. All right, so let me read some super chats here. Madi Darno says, welcome, Mike, big Humanist Report fan here.
Wow, thank you so much. Very cool.
Yeah. Shane McAndrew says, the worst thing about Brianna Joy Gray being soft on Tucker Carlson is making Soledad O'Brien look more credible. Both are awful.
Yeah, I haven't seen the segment yet. What I've seen about it is very problematic, to be clear. I'll reserve judgment until I see the whole thing. But yeah, Soledad O'Brien is not. Yeah,
I talked about Brianna yesterday, and again, you get the inevitable. Oh, you're taking this out of context. Oh, I watched the whole thing. The context wasn't that much better. It was still a bit of a defense of hope. I mean, the Surfs also went through the entire 18 minutes and was like, context not so good. So again, you should watch it and judge for yourself, and maybe there's something in there that we missed, I missed, and everyone else has missed. So and maybe it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe that makes it a little bit better, but still also not great. Let's see. Dango Bangle says, so semen can be technically used as like a potato? Also, I forget where the anti-trans forced detransitioning hearings are taking place. One of the people the TERFs brought on, their entire argument is, can't coom. Don't coom, not once.
What? Oh
Don't
my
coom,
God.
not once. It's one of those, the no-fap people.
Wow. Isn't
that funny that that's even a movement?
It's very weird.
Bizarre.
I guess I don't understand it at all. But I'm fascinated by it. I don't know why there's so many people who want to deny like human nature. I mean, maybe there's benefits to it that I'm unaware of, but I mean, folks, there's a lot of things going on in the world. Like, if that makes you happy, do it. You know what I mean?
You know what? It makes me think of an old Seinfeld episode where they all took the bet to not masturbate. Like, are you the master of your domain? That's what it was. And so they bet money on it, and the guys were getting smarter. Like, and then like Jerry Seinfeld, he was getting smarter. And Elaine was getting stupider. For not, she was getting like dumb. I thought that was pretty funny.
That is funny. I've never seen many Seinfeld episodes. Only like
that was a good one.
There.
That was a funny one.
That does sound funny.
Didn't Costanza get caught by her mom? I don't remember that specific part, but I do remember Kramer coming in and you know, in his signature way, busting through the door, slamming money on the table, going, "I'm out, Jerry. I'm out." All right, couple more well, we got a lot of them, actually. Peace, Robert Walker says, "Jeff, Mike, I've been watching you both for years now. Love you both. Thanks for all your work."
That's amazing. I love comments like that.
I know, right? I love it. Dango Bango again saying the foster care system is run and controlled by conservatives and evangelicals. Most of the homeless people are from the foster system. And then asked, why didn't you bring the Hasidic community too? They're far-right version of the Taliban and evangelicals. Yeah, that's like the far right in the Jewish religion, the ultra Orthodox conservative Jews. Buck v. Bell also made eugenics illegal. They want it back. Corey with just a very kind $5. Varden says, you two make a great combo. I've enjoyed hearing this cast.
Wow. They're so your audience is so wonderful.
They are. They're pretty awesome. Over on Twitch, by the way, Tempo Dan 918 gave out five gifted subs. It's super nice. Jayhawker the Ball Dragon gifted a month a tier 1 sub. That's awesome. Red Hobbit 3, thank you for the 100 bits. Appreciate that. So I have a small but great community. Yeah, you're all amazing. So thank you so much. Brett Campbell, according to Georgia, in another episode, you can get shrinkage from being in the pool. I was in the pool. I was in the pool. I remember that. All right. Look, this has been fantastic. I definitely want you to come back. And by the way, if you want me to be on your show as well, I'm always I'm always happy to go on and do some more cross pollination, if you will. And so,
absolutely. I feel bad that I took a break when I thought we'd be on a little bit longer. So I'm sorry. I could have waited.
We normally go for about an hour because, like, I immediately get done and I edit all my stuff and then I post everything and, immediately up at 6 and it takes like an hour and a half to go through and, edit everything and and post it all up and all the different platforms because we're on that we're on, Yeah. Oh, by the way, can you stay for a few minutes after we go offline? I do have some questions for you.
Absolutely.
All right, awesome. To everybody, please go subscribe to The Humanist Report. Go follow him on Twitter at The Humanist Report. And also, like and share the stream. And have a fantastic weekend. Thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you later.
Big, massive dump.
There's some boards in this house.
There's insanity in the control room.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They say, that's amazing. How did you do that?
Get in a long tube with a bunch of demons.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.